Christine and Leah Papin. Two sisters whose names have become synonymous with one of the most infamous crimes in French history. Two names etched in the annals of true crime, forever remembered for their shocking and brutal actions. In 1933, these sisters, employed as maids in the quiet town of Le Mans, committed an unspeakable act. Their crime was so heinous that it forever linked their names with violence and madness, casting a long shadow over the town and the era. Their story is a chilling descent into darkness, a tale of isolation, resentment, and ultimately, brutal murder. The Papin sisters' crime was not just an act of violence, but a manifestation of deep-seated psychological turmoil and societal pressures. What drove these seemingly ordinary women to such a horrific crime? Was it the oppressive working conditions, the lack of familial support, or something more sinister lurking within their minds? Let's peel back the layers of time and step into the world of the Papin sisters. A world where the lines between sanity and madness blur, and where the pressures of their environment may have pushed them to the brink. Their story is a haunting reminder of the darkness that can fester beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. It challenges us to consider the hidden struggles and unseen battles that can lead to such tragic outcomes. The tale of Christine and Leah Papin is not just a story of crime, but a reflection on the human condition and the fragile nature of the mind. The Papin sisters' story begins in Le Mans, France. Life was never easy. Their parents' relationship was tumultuous. Whispers of infidelity and instability followed them. Christine, the elder, was described as intelligent but introverted. Leah, the younger, was more outgoing but fiercely loyal to her sister. Their childhood was marred by their parents' separation. This event cast a long shadow over their lives. The sisters found solace and dependence in each other, their bond unbreakable. Christine and Leah found themselves working as live-in maids for the Lancelin family. Their days were long, their tasks menial. They cooked, cleaned, and cared for the family's needs, all while navigating the strict expectations of their employer, Madame Lancelin. The sisters, used to a life of hardship, found little warmth in their new home. Madame Lancelin, a woman accustomed to obedience, ruled the household with an iron fist. The sisters, already withdrawn, retreated further into themselves, finding solace only in each other's company. Resentment simmered beneath the surface, fueled by their isolation and perceived mistreatment. The day began like any other in the Lancelin household. The aroma of coffee filled the air as Christine and Leah went about their morning chores. But beneath the veneer of normalcy, a storm was brewing. An argument erupted. Its catalyst? A trivial matter, a faulty iron. This seemingly insignificant object became the flashpoint for years of pent-up rage and resentment. The argument escalated, spiraling out of control, shattering the fragile peace of the Lancelin home. What followed was a scene of unimaginable horror. Hammer found, blood everywhere. The headline alone was enough to send chills down the spine of anyone who read it. The police arrived at a scene of chaos. The flashing lights of the police cars illuminated the dark night, casting eerie shadows on the walls of the Lancelin home. The Lancelin home, usually a picture of order, was in disarray. Furniture was overturned, and personal belongings were scattered everywhere, painting a picture of a violent struggle. Blood stained the walls and floors, a gruesome testament to the violence that had unfolded within its walls. The sheer amount of blood was overwhelming, indicating the ferocity of the attack. Madame Lancelin and her daughter Genevieve lay dead in their bedrooms, their bodies brutally mutilated. The sight was too horrific for many to bear, and even the seasoned officers were visibly shaken. The murder weapon, a hammer, was found near the bodies. It was covered in blood, a silent witness to the unspeakable acts that had been committed. It was a chilling reminder of the brutality inflicted upon the victims. The hammer, once a simple household tool, had become an instrument of death. The discovery sent shockwaves through the quiet town of Le Mans. This was a place where everyone knew each other, and such violence was unheard of. Neighbors and townspeople alike struggled to comprehend the heinous act that had occurred in their midst. Conversations were filled with disbelief and fear as the community tried to make sense of the tragedy. Investigators worked tirelessly, collecting evidence and trying to piece together the events that led to this horrific crime. The forensic team meticulously documented every detail, hoping to find clues that would lead them to the perpetrator. Detectives interviewed neighbors and potential witnesses, trying to gather any information that could shed light on the case. a police sketch artist, worked on creating a composite image based on descriptions provided by those who might have seen something suspicious. As the investigation continued, the community came together to mourn the loss of Madame Lancelin and her daughter. A candlelight vigil was held, with townspeople holding candles and sharing memories of the victims. Flowers and notes were left at the crime scene, a small but heartfelt tribute to the lives that were so tragically taken. The town of Le Mans would never be the same, forever marked by the horror of that fateful night. Whispers in the courthouse. The trial of Christine and Léa Papin was a media sensation. Reporters and spectators packed the courtroom, eager to catch a glimpse of the demon maids as they became known. The sisters' emotionless demeanor and the horrific nature of the crime captivated the nation. The prosecution presented a case of cold-blooded murder, painting the sisters as resentful and vengeful. They argued that the sisters had planned the murders, driven by a desire to punish their employers for perceived injustices. The defense, however, countered with a plea of temporary insanity. The insanity plea. This legal defense has been a subject of intense debate and scrutiny for centuries. It raises profound questions about the nature of responsibility, mental health, and justice. The defense's case hinged on the sisters' history of mental instability and their unusually close relationship. These two women, bound by blood and shared experiences, had a bond that was both their strength and their downfall. They argued that the sisters' isolated world and their dependence on each other created a shared psychosis, a delusional reality in which they felt justified in their actions. This phenomenon, known as folie à deux, is rare but not unheard of. It occurs when two people, often in close proximity, share the same delusions and reinforce each other's distorted perceptions of reality. The court-appointed psychiatrists offered conflicting opinions, further fueling the debate. Some experts believe that the sisters were indeed suffering from a form of shared madness, a condition that impaired their ability to distinguish right from wrong. Some believe the sisters were indeed suffering from a form of shared madness, a psychological condition that blurred the lines between reality and delusion. This condition, they argued, made it impossible for the sisters to fully comprehend the gravity of their actions. While others saw their actions as a calculated act of revenge, these experts contended that the sisters were fully aware of their actions and used their close relationship as a convenient excuse to escape justice. The judge and jury were left to grapple with the complex question of the sisters' mental state at the time of the murders. They had to consider whether the sisters were victims of their own minds or cunning individuals who manipulated their circumstances to their advantage. The outcome of this case would not only determine the sisters' fate, but also set a precedent for how the insanity plea would be viewed in future legal battles. In the end, the court found Christine and Léa Papin guilty of murder. Christine, deemed the more culpable of the two, was sentenced to death. However, her sentence was later commuted to life in prison. Léa received a 10-year sentence. Christine's mental state deteriorated rapidly in prison. Isolated from her sister, her only solace, she spiraled further into madness. She experienced hallucinations, refused food, and reportedly tried to gouge out her own eyes. Her decline was a tragic postscript to an already horrific story. Léa Papin's fate was different. Released from prison after serving 8 years, she lived a quiet and secluded life. She worked as a cleaner under an assumed identity, forever haunted by the shadow of her past. While Léa never publicly spoke about the murders, those close to her claimed she expressed remorse for her actions. She reportedly carried a photograph of her sister with her always, a poignant reminder of the bond that had led them down such a dark path. The case of the Papin sisters sent shockwaves through France and beyond. It sparked debates about class, mental health, and the criminal justice system. Some saw the sisters as victims themselves, driven to madness by the oppressive society in which they lived. Others viewed them as cold-blooded killers, their actions a stark reminder of the capacity for human cruelty. The case inspired numerous books, films, and plays, each attempting to unravel the complex psychological factors that led to the tragedy. The story of Christine and Léa Papin is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. It is a tale of isolation, resentment, and the devastating consequences of unchecked anger. Their case continues to fascinate and disturb, serving as a cautionary tale about the importance of mental health awareness and the dangers of societal pressures. The Papin sisters' legacy is a haunting reminder of the fragility of the human psyche and the enduring power of the bonds we forge, for better or for worse.